Hi, Joe Cerrone. Welcome to CAD 116, Basic AutoCAD. Today we're going to look at Module 5, which covers Chapter 10 and Chapter 11 from our textbook. So we're going to take a look at those textbook chapters. And I've also included in the main splash page the drawing assignment. You're to choose one drawing assignment, either one of these two mechanical drawings or this civil drawing. And then we have some attachments here for downloads. And I've set this attachment here that'll allow us to take a look at an example that we can use for the chapter. And so I'm going to download this file right here and open it. And we have this floor plan sample that toggles with the textbook chapter. And so as we open that in AutoCAD, we can see that, and we can start to set up and take a look at our tabs. We look at the chapter. We're looking at understanding the relationship between drawing objects in the display using zoom commands, pan commands, view resolution, navigation, wheels. There's a lot of different ways to do things. User coordinate systems, and then being able to save and restore viewports. The basic concept is that we create these full-size drawings that are scaled to actual units, and then we're able to see them on the CAD system. And so when we look at these different drawings and we open them up, we can use the navigate panel to go through these different display commands. So we can go to the main splash page and open this floor plan sample drawing, just as an example. And so here's our floor plan sample drawing. And then as we look at that, let's see if we can get this to fit on the screen. So as we look at our sample drawing, the concept is that we would create the drawing full size. And if we were to go back to our CAD system, we can then check our units. And so we can enable our toolbar. And so here's the menu bar. So if I turn off the menu bar, show the menu bar, we'll have this menu bar here across the top. And then, for example, if we wanted to check the format of this and we wanted to look at the drawing units, we could see that this is an architectural drawing, and the units would then be set up in feet and inches. We can check the navigation panel and then make sure that we have these different commands active. And that's part of getting to use AutoCAD. And so when we look at the tabs, we have a home tab, an insert tab, an annotate tab, and a view tab. And if you don't have one of those tabs on, what you do is you right click in an area and then you check to see that you have those tabs enabled. So we have our home tab, our insert tab, our annotate tab, home, insert, annotate. And then when we're on the view tab, what we want to do is we want to make sure that we have the same tabs that are active. And so what they're showing here is on the tab that they have the navigate panel enabled. And so to enable the navigate tab, what you do is you right mouse click and then you say show tabs, and then make sure, show panels, and make sure that navigate is checked off. So now that navigate is checked off, you can then see these different commands like extents, window. And so zoom extents will zoom everything that's within the drawing. Zoom window, we could use to create a little box and then zoom in on that window. The best way to zoom and pan is with the mouse. And so what you really want to do is to get a mouse with a scroll wheel. And so that'll allow you to change the zooming for the mouse by just turning the wheel on the mouse. And so what they do is they give you an example of how to zoom into a different area. And so if you were looking at the floor plan, if I turn the wheel on the mouse, it'll zoom it out. If I push the wheel on the mouse, it will zoom it in. And it's extremely efficient to be able to go and to look at the different areas of the drawing. If we wanted to pan with the mouse, what we do is we would push the middle mouse wheel and you get the hand, and it'll allow you to look around the drawing without changing the level of magnification. And so you can either be in really close and then pan around and you can see all these different cubicles that they have set up, or you can be farther back and look at more of the drawing. And then they have all these different zoom commands, and AutoCAD's a very well-established command. And so as we look at these different zoom commands, as the software developed, they added more and more different ways to view drawings. And so zoom real time is using the mouse where you can increase or decrease the magnification. And so if we were to look at the view menu and then we looked at zoom real time, if you click and hold and push the mouse up, it increases the magnification level in case you don't have a scroll wheel, or it decreases the level. And that's what real-time zooming does. It's really the best way to work with AutoCAD. And then you have things like zoom window, which would be view, zoom, window, and then you can create a window and zoom in on that detail. And you can get extremely small with it or extremely large as you zoom in. And then you can exit out, you can right mouse click within the zoom commands, you can use some of these other commands. And so we looked at zoom, zoom window, zoom original, zoom extents. If we get into view, zoom, extents. And really what you want to be able to use is zoom extents and zoom all. And so that'll give you the full perspective of what's available within the drawing. And so you can zoom in on the objects, you can zoom it at a scale, but you really don't use that command so much as you would set up a viewport. It's just a command that allows you to set up the display at a certain percentage. And then as we continue to work through these different zoom commands, you have these different zooming abilities like zooming previous. And so if I was zoomed in here and then I zoomed back and then I said Z for zoom and I typed in P for previous, it'll restore to that last zoom level. And so you're able to use all these different zooming and magnification commands, but they all pretty much work the same. As you get into the drawings, it's just a matter of being able to navigate your way around and find things within like this floor plan, a drawing that may be fairly complicated. Other commands that you can use are things like the view command, where you can create a view and you can restore a view. So for example, if I was managing a large enterprise like this and I wanted to save a view, I might be able to save the view as by the room number. And so I could say view. And then I can save these views. And so as you work with large drawings, let's say I was the facilities manager for the college, I could start to save views by classroom numbers and then be able to quickly tell one of my employees, hey, go to room 6050, and they can just restore that view by saying new view, and then I could name the view name 6050, and I could say, okay. And then I can close this. And then if I had another room that I wanted to have a view of, let's say 6074, I could say view. And it looks like the first one I called number one, but I can restore these views by clicking on it and then just say to restore it or set the view current. And it looks like it just didn't do that one. Let me cancel this real quick. I have to say, okay, there we go. And then if I go back to view, I can restore the view by setting it current and applying it. And so you can create these different ways to navigate through large drawings that may be fairly complicated. And so this is explaining how I did that. Just creating a view after you've zoomed into an area and then saving it as a name. View res is a really good command because what happens is things like circles, the computer will start to make them look more blocky because it calculates out the circle. And so as we work with it, the view resolution on circles can be increased with the view res command. And so when we look at view res, you can increase the zooming based on how high the resolution is. The lower the resolution, the worse it looks. And so if you really want something that looks really great, you can just crank it all the way up to 20,000 and the resolution will be a lot smoother. So for example, if I had a circle that I drew, it looks super, super smooth. Whereas if I go into view res, and if I were to dial it down to 1,000, and then I regen, and this still looks pretty decent, but you'll get more of a blockiness. And so that's the view res command. That didn't really work my example as well as I could, but you can see that's what their example is in the textbook. And so other things that we can work with are things like the UCS icon. And so as we look at the UCS icon, that's this little icon here that's in the lower left-hand corner. And you can turn that on and you can turn that off with the UCS icon command. So if we zoom back here, let's erase that. And then we were to look at the UCS icon command. When we work with the UCS icon command, what we're looking at is some of the properties for that. And so we can look at the style that we want that UCS icon to look like, whether we're looking at a 2D icon or a 3D icon, changing the size, the color, etc. And we can okay that. This is showing what the UCS icon looks like in the settings command. And so as we look at this, if we right mouse click and we go to options, and then we were to look at 3D modeling and whether you're going to see that UCS icon. It's on the 3D modeling tab. And here's our display of our UCS icon. So you can turn it off and work with some other options within that. All right, continuing on. View go is the same as the view restore command. And so you can restore those views with the view go command and then going to that view that you wanted to save, like we did with the room numbers. Viewports is a really neat command because it works differently in paper space than it does in model space. And so viewports looks really cool in model space where you can divide up the screen like this. And so if I was to go back to my drawing, And while I'm in model space, let's say viewports, you can set it up so that you can have 4 on the left, and you can set it up in 2D or in 3D. So let's start off with a basic 2D. So if we said 4 left, and then we would say current views, let's just okay with that. And then you can double click in each of the views and you can have different components that are shown within model space. And then if we go back to viewports command, when you work within something with 3D, you can go through and you can change things. It's a little bit more dynamic with 3D. And so let me open up a 3D drawing. And so let's see here, we have our mechanical drawings. Here's one that has some 3D applications to it. And so if I modeled this, and then if I typed in viewports or left in 3D, then you have a top view. You can have it set for front view, right side view, and then an isometric. And you can also have the visual styles that are shown within each view. And so these are shown with realistic views. And then we can go through here, and each viewport is active. And so you can have it set up with the top view. And this would be a front view. And then this would be the side view. And so it allows you to navigate through the model to see these different components within the drawing with viewports. They're really kind of neat. And so you can have a perspective here where you can be in one view and you can start a line here, and then you can snap into another view and then grab and create that geometry in other views. So it has some great applications for it. But in a basic course, we're just looking at how these different view commands work. And so you have viewports, and in model space, you can create these different viewports, and then you can set up what you have displayed within those viewports. And then you can also set whether you want them to be a visual style of wireframe or conceptual, depending on what visual style you prefer. And that's basically where the textbook kind of leaves off. Now, if we were to look at that chapter and we were to look at that same area within the drawing, you can also work with viewports in paper space when we work with layouts. And it looks like they're going to have that in a different chapter. And so we won't go into that at this point. So when we look at the view command in chapter and the exercises, what we're looking at is to be able to manipulate these different drawing objects and to look at them. And so one of the chapter exercises here is to just look at the floor plan sample drawing and then to look at the different areas of it. Be able to zoom in using zoom real time, zoom extents, etc. All righty. So as we look at the view commands, this completes our lecture on this chapter 10.